Morning, guys. Welcome to another TradingView update and happy Friday. Overnight, ETH exploded higher, which we'll look at in a second. Ethereum also trying to move higher, but ultimately still encountering some resistance from this upward trend, from the top of this upward trending channel that we've been trading in since June. Now, first thing we want to look at on the Bitcoin chart, let's zoom in a little bit. We can see now how prices are really kind of caught between this upward trending line and the Fib retracement at 57K. For me, the intraday support level that we want to see hold is this 57,000. Any move lower will likely revisit 56.5. And if that then fails to hold, then we could go all the way back down to 54.5. So there is room for definite downside here. Now, that said, funding rates are still relatively flat. When we look at the BTC ones, you can see that historically, let's move this out of the way. You can see that they're actually kind of moving more towards the negative side at the moment, which is always kind of good. It remains flat, market's healthy, and that's something that we want to see continue. Now, I would also say that on the futures side, we want to have a quick look at the open interest on CME futures, just because the CME is used by institutions predominantly to get exposure to the space. Now, the CME futures are almost at a record high. We're almost in line with the levels that we saw back in February. Now, what that suggests is that institutions are coming back into the space in earnest, getting exposure to the crypto market through the use of futures. And what's important to note is that these futures are dated. Yeah, we're not actually, or institutions won't really be using leverage when trading these futures. It's just all settled in the future. But this is just a good sign that institutions are coming back into the space. And as we start moving higher, both in Bitcoin and Ethereum, I expect the kind of media hype around the cryptocurrency markets to come back in earnest. It'll be covered on the news more, and that'll start to really bring retail back into the space as well. Now, speaking of Ethereum, we finally had that move higher. We broke out of we had that resistance area, which we identified, which we needed to break out of. We've moved higher. We've now found initial resistance from the 0.786 Fib retracement level as well. So similar to Bitcoin, let me find that. Here you go. You can see how it's just tested this 3,800 level, and we're now moving back a little bit lower. Intraday, I want to see us hold price level of 3,700. Any move below, if that fails to hold, then we'll likely drop back down to 3,650. I would also say that the 2021 trading channel is starting to look quite interesting now, because if we move this out the way, you can see how we're getting towards the middle of this trading corridor. Now, historically, whenever we've broken into the upper segment, there's always kind of been a few weeks or even months of outperformance. We had it back here in September, but more importantly, towards the beginning of the year, when we broke into the upper part of the channel, you'd had almost 3 weeks of trading here. And I mean, back in April, we were above this level for almost 2 months. So if we do break above it, I'm expecting continued outperformance over the next few weeks. Now, that said, on the Ethereum funding rates, they're looking a touch overheated. Nothing crazy, but when you look at, let's move up here. Where's my funding rate? When you look at the Ethereum funding rates on Binance especially, it's trading at 0.04%, which is already 4 times as high as where it normally trades. Now, that could suggest that there's a little bit more leverage being used, and that if there is a move down, it could be a little bit more aggressive. But just be aware that we're starting to see a bit of a build up there. Nothing out of the ordinary yet. I mean, not anywhere close to the 0.1% levels that we were seeing at the beginning of the year. But any sort of slight increase in funding rates can lead to a slight correction. That's it from us. Have a good day and a good weekend.